So, I have a riddle for you all. If you've heard it already, try not to spoil it for the person next to you. A father and a son get into a car crash. The father dies. The son is then rushed to the hospital, where the surgeon says, "I can't operate on this boy, he's my son." How is that possible? If you guess because the son had two dads, you get some points, but it's not that kind of talk. The real reason? Because the surgeon was his mom. Now, some of you may be confused as to why you didn't think that was the answer in the first time, and I get it, because I was confused too. The fact is, we all have preconceived notions about gender, especially in the workforce, and that's why this is such an important issue that we all need to talk about. As you may have encountered at least a few times in your life, women are said to experience the glass ceiling. In case you're unfamiliar with it, it is the term used to describe the fact that there's this invisible barrier that keeps women from rising up to meet their male counterparts. But what you may not know is that men experience the opposite problem, the glass escalator. It's a term coined by Christine L. Williams, and to sum it up, it's basically the sociological idea that men rise up to power faster than women in typically female-dominated jobs, known as pink-collar jobs like nursing, teaching, or waitressing. For example, a male nurse is much more likely to get the job of shift director above a female nurse who has had that nursing position for twice as long as the man who got it over her. Now, the problem with that, if you don't realize it is one, is that not only are men taking over previously female-dominated jobs, but then they become too feminine in the eyes of other men, and they move on to better things and leave women in the dust. Believe it or not, this happened with teaching. Originally, it was a male-dominated field, and when it opened up in the 60s to allow for women to also work as teachers, the stigma got higher and the pay got lower. In fact, the general statistic nowadays is that women take up more than 80% of the teaching field. Now you can probably see the issue as to why men are swayed away from wanting to become nurses or teachers. The stigma is so high in those fields, and it will continue to be if we don't do something about that problem. It is both our jobs to fix this problem facing the world because we all matter. On a fundamental level, men and women are not all that different, and thus we should be treated according to this universal truth. Men, you may not realize it, but this is an issue for you as well. It puts a whole lot of pressure on you to be the breadwinner, and although this stigma is changing, it is a slow and painful process. But to understand why men and women are treated differently the way that they are now, we must look back to the then. According to Marxist feminists, basically women were screwed in the division of labor. It was pure random error that women had to stay home and take care of the kids, not because men were better at hunting, but because women are, for obvious reasons, better at breastfeeding. That is the only explanation, according to these types of people, as to why women are known as the stay-at-home moms and men are not. But not all men, you might say. You're right, I know not all men. Some do stay home and take care of the kids, and that is amazing and great. But is there still not a stigma around that? In fact, does anyone remember the episode of Friends where Rachel hired a male nanny and Ross was furious because he was a he, and how on earth could a he take care of the baby? The point is, everybody has gender bias. It's all over and around us. And the issue that we need to solve is understanding that because women are now known as the nurturers in our society, we have all developed implicit biases around this idea, which is basically the notion that we all have unconscious stereotypes and assumptions that are shaping our decisions without our conscious awareness. This is called bias, implicit bias. But the most important fact when I learned about researching this is that they are malleable. So in the same way humans can learn new information, they can also unlearn old information. So this de-biasing, which is what sociologists call it, is a great thing, but the issue is that it is a conscious decision that needs to be made every day. So then we come to the next issue, which is motivating people to, number one, understand their implicit biases, and number two, want to do something to change those implicit biases. Because it is one thing to understand that you have an implicit bias and another to do something about it. Men, do you want to live in a world where you get a job just because of your male anatomy? Don't you want to know that you earned it and that you deserve it? Don't think about your wife or your sister or your daughter. Think about yourself. This is an unequal world that everyone should have a problem with, even straight white males. And I know that it's hard for some people to hear, but it is true. No one should be happy with the current state of our world, even if you are someone benefiting from it. Because there is more you can do, and there is more you can be if this obstacle of gender did not exist. So as you can all see, hopefully, gender inequality and bias in the workforce is something that is a major issue for both genders, and thus is an issue that both genders need to work together to combat. So, Men and women are painfully unequal in most professional fields, and the clear and precise answer as to how we fix this is fight back. I won't advocate that a woman get a STEM job over a man or a man get a nursing job over a woman to even out the gender imbalance in that field, but instead I think it starts with something simpler than that. Ask questions and seek equality. If you are a female and you have the same qualifications for a job as a man did and he gets it over you, ask them what the deciding factor was. Challenge them to think about their implicit biases and understand that everyone has them and that everyone has unconscious preconceived prejudicial judgments about men and women. If you are a woman and you find out that your male coworker is making significantly more than you but has the same degree as you, ask your boss why. Of course, these examples are all about women, but we can afford to help men too, because after all, women are for men too. This could be something as simple as challenging stereotypical masculinity and assumptions about that. So tell your young son that he can be a nurse too, or if your male coworker gets negative feedback for wanting to take a paternal leave of absence, stick up for him. So in the end, hopefully you can all see that this is a major issue that all genders need to work together to combat. In the end, let us all, male and female, work together to empower men and women to be better. And instead of taking an opportunity away from one to give to the other, create new opportunities. I'll leave you all with a quote that I'm sure most of you have heard before, but hopefully in the context of this speech, it'll mean something new or different to you. Here it is. In the end, there's no neutrality. You are either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. I challenge you all to think that maybe the solution is as simple as asking why. Thank you.